Jack Spade back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And today, part 2 of making a set of leather suspenders. If you go back, if you haven't checked out part 1, we made the back patch that goes on the back where all the straps attach. And check that out. We made the pattern, designed it, what shape we wanted it to be, cut it out, the leather, put our maker's mark on it, and then off camera I went ahead and beveled the edges. So didn't need to take you through that. But today on part 2 we're going to cut the straps that we're going to need. So we're going to need several straps. I'm going to make it adjustable in the front with buckles, and then we're going to use some rectangled silver rings to attach, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So we're going to need several strips or straps, and I'm going to make them just shy of 1 inch because all of my rings and my slots in my back patch are 1 inch, so just shy of that. And I'm making it out of some softer leather. So I made my back patch out of approximately 10-ounce veg tan, and it makes it really strong, but I don't want my straps to be that rigid or that stiff. So I'm making the straps out of some softer chrome tan leather, and I got it at Kentucky Leather and Hides. If you haven't checked them out, go online at www.kentuckyleatherandhides.com. Check them out, see what they have. They've got tons of stuff, good people. And I want to make sure that we get this done today. Then we'll move on to video number 3 and finish this project up. So come on in and let's get started. Alright, so I've got my strap cutter here, and it's got a razor blade that you insert, flat razor blade, and you lock it down with a Allen screw. Then you can adjust it, and it's got measurements on it. I don't know if you could see that in the camera. Yeah, you could see that. It's got measurements on it, but I always take a ruler and double check to make sure from the edge of my strap cutter to the blade is what I really want, just to double check it. Now, I always line that up with the long handle part so that I get a nice straight edge, and then I take both my fingers, or both hands, fingers and thumbs, and I start forcing that into that blade just to get it started. So I want to keep pulling that through, but notice I'm keeping it nice and straight with this handle. That's what's going to keep my strap the size that I want it and keep it uniformed all the way down. Once it comes out this other end down here, I can grab a hold of that strap that's coming out, and then I can start pulling it through, and I'm grabbing both sides of where it's cut so that it doesn't get cattywampus on me. I'll grab a hold of right where the slit is and grab a hold of both pieces, and as I pull it through, I'm not in any hurry. I'm pulling it through and keeping that lined up on that handle so that the width of my leather strap stays very consistent all the way down. If that starts pulling away from that handle, then it's going to widen out my strap. If it starts running up on the handle, it's going to narrow my strap, and then it's not going to be uniformed all the way down. So I'll continue to pull that through. Once it gets toward the end, I'll take my finger and my thumb with that hand and just guide it all the way through. Might want to switch hands here, and I'll keep that to where that edge is right on that handle. So my wife helped me measure the length that I need, and we put this in the upper part of my back between my shoulder blades, and then put this part right at the bottom of where my shoulder blades cross. So that's personal preference. That's just where we placed it. And then she measured from this slot down to the waistband on my pants, and that gave me a measurement of 12 inches. So I know this strap is going to be 12 inches. Then we measured, put it in the same position on my back, measured from this slot over my shoulder down to the waistband of my pants on the front. We did the same on this side. So that came out to approximately 36 inches. So I know I need, just to start, I need two straps about 7/8 of an inch wide by 36 inches long. Then I need a strap here down to the back of my pants, 12 inches long. So that's what this piece is, this shorter piece that I just cut. It is, and I haven't squared it up, but it is approximately 15 inches, 14 to 15 inches. So I will set these two pieces aside. I'm going to square this up using a straight edge, and my guide or my grid on my self-healing mat, and all I'm doing is squaring the ends up. This will be shortened, I'm sure. As we move ahead, you'll see how I'm going to put these together. And then I'll turn it around. We'll do the same thing on the other end to square it up. And then we'll measure it and see what we've got. Remember, I need at least 12 inches is what I'm looking for. So I've got that squared up, this squared up, and my plan is not to have square ends anyway, so I'll end up using my rounded corner punches before I'm done. So let's see what that turned out. 12, so 14¼ inches. So I've got plenty there. I want to make sure that I have some excess. I know I need at least 12 inches. So that'll give me a little more to play with. I can always cut it off, but remember, once you cut it, it's kind of like cutting 2x4s. Once you cut it too short, you're going to have to get a new one and start over. You can't add to it, but you can always cut more off. So there's my short strap for the back. Now let's see how that goes in that slot. And it is going to fit snug. And that's what I want. I want it to fit snug. I don't want it to fit loose. And let me grab a pair of needle nose and pull that through to get it started. And again, I'm going to use some rectangled silver rings. I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So it won't be attached directly to this. So that'll give us a little more space. And then I'll use rivets to attach these together. So that's what the bottom, give you an idea what it would look like. So I can go ahead and take that out of there, set it aside. I've got my bottom strap. Now I need to do the long 36-inch straps, or 35 to 36 inches. Now these are going to take a little more time and a little more patience on my part, because I want to make sure, obviously they're a lot longer and I want to make sure I keep the width perfect as we come down. So I'll do the same thing as I start. I'll put that along the handle and keep it nice and straight as I force that through and get it started. Once I get it through there to where I can grab it on this side and get started, I can go ahead and start pulling it through. Now remember, I'm grabbing right on that cut, right where that's cutting it. I'll move that up. You want this to where it's comfortable for you. So you might want a little larger space to work in. And remember, I'm keeping that nice and straight with that handle all the way down. And the key is to take your time. Don't get in a big hurry. And on this, it's very key because I only have a certain amount of this leather that's that length. I've got quite a bit of it, but not very much of it that's 35 to 36 inches long. So I want to make sure that I keep that precise so that I get a nice, straight, even strap. Again, I get down to the end, make sure that it's still following the edge of that handle as I pull it through. And there's the first strap, and I'll set it aside. We'll come back and start all over and do the second strap. We'll start it the same way. We just go right to the same edge that we just cut because we know it should be perfectly straight. Force the beginning of that through, grab the end of it, and I found doing this that if I try to get in a hurry, just about like everything else, if I try to get in a hurry, that's when I make a mistake. So you just go at a speed that you're comfortable with. Key is to keep that right against that handle as you slide it down. Keep that parallel the whole time. And there's my second strap. Nice, straight, consistent. And that's a lot easier than trying to cut it with a straight edge and a knife. So I can set this aside for now. I'll square up the ends of these two. I'll do it just like I did the shorter one, except I'll just put these side by side. Take my straight edge, my knife, then I can flip the end for end the same thing. Keep them nice and straight so that I get a good square edge. Making sure that they're even on the other end that I just cut. And then if you want to, you can go ahead and double check the length. And I think I'll do that just to make sure before I move on. What I've got exactly. So they're both going to be exactly the same length, and they are 33 inches long. So they're not quite as long as what I had measured, but what's nice about that is I'm going to use two pieces in the front so that they're adjustable. So I'm going to use a buckle, so that'll work out fine. As we move through this project, you'll see what I'm talking about. If I was just going to use one piece, I'd have to make sure that these were a little bit longer than that. And you'll see how I'm going to gain some length on both of these, or all three of the straps actually. So let's go ahead and take my poly cutting board and let's pull out my rounded corner punch. Let's see. This one's going to be perfect. It's a 25, number 25 punch. And I'm not going to cut very much off at all on the end. I just want that rounded. So you can see how much I cut off. Not very much, probably a 1/16 of an inch. I'll flip that around, do the same on the other side. Now, if there's for some reason I get down the road on this project and I need to shorten this, that's not a problem. I can go ahead and shorten it using that punch, and it'll only take seconds to do that. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and round these off at these specific lengths that I've already got them cut, just so that the ends are ready to go as we move on. And this leather, this chrome tan softer leather that I'm using here for the straps, is pre-dyed, so it's already brown. So I'll try to match as close as possible with my back patch. I might do a little bit different tone just to set it off a little bit. So there's my three straps with the rounded ends ready to go. So I've got the two for the front and then the one for the back. Now the ones in the front, and the reason why I said I can use a shorter strap than the full amount of 35 inches is because when this comes down over the front like so, I'm going to go ahead and put some holes in this. Then I'll make another section down here that actually attaches to my pants that'll have a buckle in it so that it's adjustable. So as I get older and fatter, I can adjust those suspenders. Or if you were making these for somebody then you don't have to be exactly precise. I mean, it would adjust probably up to 4 inches or so, so that's quite a bit of adjustment. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead, and how I'm going to do this, I'll show you on these rectangled rings. And I'm doing this basically to make it more decorative. But I'm going to take smaller pieces when I put them through here. Let me get that started, pulled through. That's pretty snug. And then I'll take one of these silver rectangle rings and put that smaller piece in here. They'll both be rounded, and I'll put a silver rivet in there. And then I'll have a ring. I want that on the other side. I better do that, make it look right. So this ring will be on the outside, like so. That'll be riveted there. That's just going to be a small piece right there. Then my other piece, this will all be rounded, so that'll be a short piece. Then my other piece will come over and attach. Finished side would be the long side. And so it would attach like so. So that I'm going to have that decorative ring on there, and it's not going to attach directly. The main strap's not going to attach directly to my back patch. It'll attach to that ring. So all it's going to do is give it a little more decoration, a little more interest than just doing the strap directly to the back patch. And you'll see that as we get going. So what I need to do is I need to measure how long do I need these pieces. They're all going to be the same. I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to need 5 because I'm going to need 3 for my back patch. Then I'm going to need 2 for the front where it attaches to my pants. I'm going to do the same thing with that. So that's what it's going to look like. So what I need to do is pull this down, and I'll just hold my finger and thumb on there, take that back patch out, then I'll measure that and see how long I need these to be. 3.5 inches. So I'm going to need 5 of those, 3.5 inches long. Now, how I'm going to do that is I'll take my shorter piece that I cut my 12-inch length out of, and I'll make me some straps out of that, and then that's what I'll cut my shorter pieces out of. So I'll get that started, pull that all the way through. So this kind of guarantees that all of my straps are going to be the exact same width, because I'm not changing anything on my strap cutter, so it's going to stay consistent. Fits really good in these rings, gives me a little bit of play so it's not super tight. So I'm going to go ahead and cut another one, because remember I needed 5 of those at, what I say, 3.5 inches. And I can always, if I need to, when I get to it, I can always cut them down just like the longer ones. So I'll cut another one. So there's 2. And what I can do is square up Well, I'll tell you what I better do is go ahead and just round one end off using the number 25 round punch. And then what I can do is measure, take my stylus and measure 3.5 inches from that point. And then put my punch right on that 3.5 inch mark. So there's the 1 inch wide strap that's 3.5 inches long, and we can, before we cut the rest of them, we can double check on here, put our ring in, and then we would put our silver rivet right here to hold that together, and then that gives us our ring to attach to our other straps. So I think it's going to look real nice having that silver on there, and 3.5 inches looks like it's going to be perfect. So we'll go ahead, flip this around. I'm going to try to get 6 just so I have an extra one. Mark it at 3.5 inches. There's 2 of them. Spin it around. Give me a fresh rounded edge. Mark it at 3.5 inches. And all I'm doing is just pushing that with that stylus into that leather to give me an exact measurement, and then I put the edge of the rounded corner punch right on it. Measure. Let's see if I can get one more out of here. Nope, it's not going to be long enough. So I'll set that one aside. Take my second strap. I did get 3 out of that, so I should be able to get 3 out of this one, which would make it 6. That'll give me an extra one, just in case something happens. So mark it at 3.5. Flip that around, give me a fresh round corner. Mark it at 3.5. So it's just a repetitive process until I get my 6 3.5 inch straps. And once you get moving at it, you get quicker and quicker. But at least by measuring each one, I'm sure that it's going to be precise. We'll find out in just a second. So there's 6 3.5-inch straps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're all exactly the same size. So that's all of my short pieces that I need. Now the next thing I got to do is I got to figure out, where do I put all my holes. My holes will all be in the same spot for those straps. So, and that's for the rivets. So I'm going to use my small 1/8-inch punch, and I'll just put one of those in, fold it over, make sure the ends match, and then mark about 3/8 of an inch up from the end and right in the center, left to right. You can see my little indentation there. That's where I'm going to punch those, and that's where my rivet's going to go, so that they're nice and centered. And what I'll do is I'll take that first one that I used and lightly, I don't want to spread that hole out in that top one, so I'll lightly tap that one, take another one, lay it down, lightly tap it so that I get a mark, so that I know where to do the next one. So I'll keep moving through that. I'll do the same thing on the next one, and that way I'm not spreading the holes out trying to do multiples at a time on top of one another. That would work, but what happens is the one on the top, the hole gets spread out, and then it could make your rivet loose or a little sloppy. And you can see this is my 6th one already, so it doesn't take very long to do it this way. And then what I'll do is I'll just spin them around. I'll do the other end the exact same way, and that way I know they're going to be in the exact same position on each end. So I don't measure again. I just flip the first one around and go off of it on the other end. And then I just keep repeating the process on the other end until I get it all 6 completed. And you can see that how much softer this leather is, because it doesn't take but a small hit to get through it. But I love doing it on these poly cutting boards. It doesn't dull my punches, and it makes for a real nice surface to punch on. Now you can see it's taken a beating, but I pick these up different sizes. I pick them up at garage sales, flea markets, whatever, and even if they've got cut marks where people's used them with a knife, it doesn't affect it at all. So I can use it over and over and over, and finally when it gets all busted up, this one's starting to get a little busted up here in the center, I'll just throw it in the trash and go to my stash and pull out another one. So I've probably got 5 or 6 of those sitting around that I've picked up here and there at garage sales and flea markets. So there's all 6 of my 3.5-inch straps. Oh, I missed one here. Better pay attention to what I'm doing here. Alright, So there's my 6 straps that are 3.5 inches. They all have the holes in the exact same place for the rivets. That's completed. I could set those aside. And I know I'll need the same thing on these straps. So what I'll do is I'll measure, because only one end of this is going to be rounded. So what I'll do is I'll measure down 3.5 inches because I want to keep it the same. And I'll go ahead and mark that, and instead of cutting that with a rounded punch, I could just lay one of those 3.5 inch pieces on there and then mark the center of the hole, and that tells me exactly where I need to punch that to make it match. So I'm only going to do one end of these to start with, because the other end, remember, I'm going to use to put holes in it for a buckle. So I'll need to know what that's. Until I start putting it together, I won't know exactly where to put those holes. So I'll just leave the other end blank. And there's my holes for my rivets for my long pieces that go to the front. On the back, I'll need to do that on both ends, but I'm not going to do the bottom end that hooks to my pants until I see exactly how long that's going to be. I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm going to add another piece to that anyway, but one of these will add to that. So let's go ahead and mark that. And punch it. So I might actually, on the back, I might have to make the piece that attaches to my pants in the back, I might have to actually make it a custom length. We'll have to wait and see. Again, this is the first time I've done this. I've never made a set of suspenders. I'm kind of going from what I have in my mind, what I think they should look like, and how I want to try to put them together. Alright, so that gives me both ends with my holes. Guess I need to put the ones on the end too here while I'm at it. That way that piece will be completely done and ready to assemble. So that takes care of that. Got the holes, it's ready to be put on and riveted. So that'll be the back piece. And then I have my two front pieces done. And again, we'll see what we need to do as far as when we start putting this together. We'll see what we need to do as far as this end of the long straps for the holes on the buckles. And then what I did was I went on Amazon and I bought a variety pack of 3 different colors of buckles. So I've got like a brass gold color, and I think there's a dozen each of them. I've got like a bronze color, and they're 1 inch, by the way. And then I bought 12 silver ones. So they're going to match my rings and my rivets. So let's double check and see on these. And it looks like it's going to be pretty snug. Going into those buckles, but it may work out just fine. We'll see. I hate to trim these off at all, but I thought I measured the rings, figured they'd measure 1 inch from the inside, which they did, and the buckles measure 1 inch to the outside. So imagine that. I should have measured both of them at the same time, but I think it's going to work just fine. Maybe a little snug, but I don't think that's going to hurt anything. I think it's going to look okay. We put that in there. So we'll try it. We'll see what happens. I don't think it's going to be a problem, especially as soft as that leather is. And we'll see what happens. Worst case scenario, we could go back and trim just a hair off of those straps, but I'd rather not if I don't have to. So there's my pieces. My 6 short 3.5 inch straps. I've got my buckles. I've got my rectangled rings. I've got my 2 long straps. My shorter strap that goes down the back. And then I've got my back patch. That's going to hold all that together. So we're on our way to getting this set of suspenders made. And we've got all of our pieces now, except for the shorter strap at the front. And I'll show you the pieces that I have. Let me see. It should be here. They are. They're in my container that has all my rings in it. They're just got mixed up with the buckle rings. But there's my ends that has the snap locks that's going to lock to my pants. So those will go over the edge of your pants. Standard on a lot of different types of suspenders. And then the ring looks like this fits in there just perfect. So not a problem with that. Those are definitely 1 inch. So I've got those also. It'll take 3 of those, 1 in the back and 2 in the front. Alright, so I've got all my pieces cut. And punched, round edges done. I've got all my hardware gathered. I've got my rivets. I've got my rectangled rings. I've got my clamps that clamp onto the pants. I've got my buckles so I can adjust them. So I think we're on our way to possibly wrapping this up on video 3. That'll be next week. So please come back, check out that. We'll try to wrap this project up. Like I said on the first video, it's a big project and it's the first time I've ever done a set of suspenders. So I'm kind of learning as I go also. And you know, you get these ideas in your head and then you try to make them come to fruition. So appreciate you coming along. I appreciate you watching these videos. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. And like I always say, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.